And our next speaker is Caren Carino. She is the Vice Dean and a Principal Lecturer from Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts, Singapore. Caren has earned 3 related degrees, including PhD Southeast Asia Studies from National University of Singapore, and also 2 dance degrees from University of Hawaii, USA. And she's now the chairperson of Asia Pacific Dance Bridge, Connectivity Through Dance. Is that right? And also she's the Vice President, Singapore chapter of the World Dance Alliance. Let's welcome to her speech.
Okay, so I am aware of time, and I will just proceed. Expressing cultural heritage through contemporary dance, and this is about case studies of 4 choreographers in Singapore. Okay, just to refresh your memories, okay, about our population here in Singapore. Yes, we are about 5.54 million. That's comprised of both residents as well as non-residents. Okay, so as you can see here, the largest population is Chinese, followed by Malay, Indian, and of course others. Okay. So our cultural development, as it was pointed out or observed by scholars, yes, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, who I've acknowledged. Okay, and I point to the second scenario. Okay, a multicultural model in which the existing indigenous cultures are strengthened and promoted to exist separately, but in symbiotic relationship with each other. Okay, and so it's this point that I'd like to address, or have you think about or imagine the possibility. Okay. So today, I feel that Singapore is becoming increasingly multicultural and multi-ethnic, okay, linking the two through diversification, differentiation, assimilation, and awakening. And I will illustrate that here. Okay. Illustrated through dance. Now, so dance throughout Singapore's history has changed its role. You know, from the very beginning to providing a sense of community for the early immigrants, then moving on to serve as a way or a vehicle to promote national identity, and continuing on through the 60s and 70s, you know, as a function of society. And only into the 20th century would we see it, yeah? At the end of the 20th century, do we see it becoming acknowledged as an artistic form? So today, we actually exist in between dance as function, right, serving Singapore's national identity, as well as an artistic expression, as we want to be recognized in the world as an arts hub. So we couple that with contemporary dance now, contemporary dance as an artistic expression, okay? It is often associated with Western knowledge and aspirations because there is something called contemporary dance, big C, big D, as a genre that did start in the West. And I'm not going to go through this whole lecture of how it started, okay? But there are, you know, tensions because of this association, of contemporary dance association with the West, okay? So now we see how contemporary dance is adapted here in Asia by Asian artists, and particularly I'm speaking about Singapore artists, and how their preoccupation with asserting their local identity then changes what contemporary dance means. It's no longer about a Western expression. Okay, so the 4 artists I've chosen, there's many artists, okay, out there, but I have chosen 4 for my presentation to you today. All right, so Raka Maitra, Kai Shiji, and Osman Abdul Hamid, as well as Sharin Jori. So let's start. Okay, Raka, okay? Age 44, she is in Indian, and her culture is Indian, okay? Her citizenship is Singaporean, and her dance training is Odissi. All right, so she is, she has her own company, okay? She's the artistic director of her own company, and of course her company is about her philosophy, okay? So I say that her contemporary dance explorations are centered on Odissi, and therefore it represents her East Indian cultural heritage. Okay? As you can see here, and I'll just read out to you, my training in classical Indian dance, which is Odissi, but when I am doing choreography, I just think of it as dance. Sometimes I use classical movement. It depends on the topic. If I feel a classical structure is needed, I use a classical structure. And if it has to be abstract and it needs improvisation, then I use that. Contemporary dance is when you take whatever is in your body to say something which is relevant today, and you break the structure of the classical. So as you can see, she's not in conflict between tradition and classical or tradition and contemporary. So we move on then to Chai Shiji, who is the creative director and choreographer of Dance Ensemble Singapore. She's 34 years old, Chinese, culture Chinese. Her citizenship is Singaporean. Her dance training is Chinese dance, but also contemporary dance in the Western sense. Okay, she went to the US to study contemporary dance. Right, as I said, she's creative director of this Dance Ensemble Singapore, who was actually founded by her mother, okay, Madam Yan. And in this company, again, I'm just going to read this because I think it's very clearly states what the company stands for, okay, and what actually Shiji also believes in, of course. Traditions are never old and irrelevant. While we need to understand and appreciate the importance of our Chinese heritage, we also have to acknowledge our shared heritage of the Nanyang, which embraces a fusion of different cultures in the heart of Southeast Asia. Dance Ensemble Singapore Arts Company is recognized to be an anchor of contemporary Chinese dance, okay, while maintaining a strong foundation of traditional Chinese dance philosophy under the guidance of Madam Yan. Okay? So, Shiji utilizes contemporary dance as a vehicle to express her cultural heritage as a Chinese born and raised in Singapore. She says that there's a difference, okay? I do not want to recreate China's Chinese dance on stage because I feel strongly that it is not representative of my culture as a Singaporean. Though our ancestors are from China, we do not embrace the same culture as China. So she's making this distinction, right? There is a need to find my own voice in my creative space, and through dance, it is perhaps the best way to relink to my culture as a Chinese Singaporean. So there is the difference between Chinese from China and Chinese being a Chinese Singaporean. And she does this through her dance and saying that, you know, our experience here in Singapore is different. So therefore, our dance forms, right, especially perhaps the content would be different. Okay, moving on to the third artist, Osman Abdul Hamid. Okay, he's the artistic director and choreographer of Era Dance Theater, 53 years old. His race is Indian and Indonesian, okay? But his culture is Malay. His citizenship is Singaporean, and his dance training is Malay dance. So he's an example of assimilation, I believe, who he has assimilated into a different culture, and he has undergone this cultural modification, okay, adapted to and borrowed from the Malay culture, okay. This is the company he's associated with, and as you can see in the highlighted, it's about contemporary and new creative Malay dance. Okay. All right, so he says contemporary dance is a creative approach to traditional Malay dance. Malay cultural values are embedded in the form, in his creation, okay? The process of exploration, experimentation, improvisation with the basic foundation of Malay, traditional Malay dance and silat training. That is the basis of many of his choreographies. Okay? So he's saying that in his dances, although contemporized, it still possesses the Malay cultural values. Okay, I'm going to show you an excerpt, Arus Masa, which he choreographed and was performed by students of my dance program at Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts. So the students did undertake training by Osman, and then he choreographed this dance for them, and it was presented at NAFA's 75th anniversary. So I'm going to show you an excerpt. It brings together actually both this Indonesian as well as the Malay and the contemporary, but I'm going to show you a quote-unquote Malay, contemporized Malay section of the dance. And finally, I'd like to present to you Caren Johari, who's the assistant choreographer and principal dancer with a company called Maya Dance Theater. Caren is 33, Indonesian, and his culture is Indonesian, okay? His citizenship is Singaporean. And when I say his culture is Indonesian, okay, I'll explain that in just a moment. He's, as I said, with Maya Dance Theater, and they do cross-cultural collaborations and integration of Asian traditional dance forms together with contemporary dance. So sometimes they separate contemporary dance in the Western sense, yeah, and also the Asian dance forms is separate as well. But sometimes they bring them together, or they contemporize, I would say, the traditional dance forms. Okay. So, as I say here, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes Caren choreographs by his choreographic process becomes a cultural awakening. So it seems to awaken his Indonesianness. And he says through dancing with other Indonesian artists and through movement improvisation, he has discovered that his Indonesian culture has been embodied all along. So this is quite interesting. So he was not raised not necessarily as an Indonesian. In fact, he said he was raised more like a Malay here in Singapore. But he is now discovering his Indonesianness, okay? Right, this is, was said by our Prime Minister, Lee, not too long ago. And this is, I give you this last words for food for thought. We have to adapt. We have to evolve. We have to absorb ideas, experiences, talent from many parts of the world, but at the same time, there is some essence and spirit of Singapore which is valuable. And you don't want to wake up tomorrow and find that it's gone. As long as our own population is stable, I think we can manage that. Okay, but I think this is something we need to question. And with that, I leave you. Thank you.